today is the deliberation of several bills and resolutions filed in this committee. Let me, ako na, para sulit ang punta. Senate Bill number 92 filed by Senator Pimentel, Senate Bill number 141 filed by Senator Villar, SB number 202, Senator Bongo, Senate Bill 461, Senator Revilla Jr., Senate Bill number 997, Senator Pacquiao, Senate Bill number 1323, Senator Zubiri, Senate Bill 1835, Senator Bongo, Senate Bill 1848 filed by this representation, Senate Bill 593, Senator Recto, and Senate Bill number 407 filed by Senator Marcos. At this juncture, may I be allowed to give the chair's opening remarks? You know, today is not the first time that we are going to tackle proposed establishment of separate department for our overseas Filipino workers or for our overseas Filipinos. And to refresh our memory, you know, way back 2018 during the 17th Congress, we already conducted a series of public hearings on this, and we tackled this during one of our hearings and even in the budget hearings here in the Senate. We also recently raised these proposals during the plenary deliberations, and some of our colleagues would recall raising this particular issue because we want to also get the endorsement of economic managers, and we want to hear their recommendations as well. At kung talagang kailangan po, perhaps, and I was told that this will be a certified measure by the President, so we will ask that question later. Alam niyo ho kung bakit naman siguro natin na pinipiga ng husto na talagang ito ba ay kailangan at sertipikado at importante sapagkat yung ating eksperyensya dito sa Committee on Labor noong tinakel natin yung ENDO, katakot-takot na hearings yung kinundak natin, and then at the end of the day, mabivito lang pala ng ating Pangulo. Sana hindi naman po natin maranasan yun sa pagkakataong ito. However, the comments and the reservations of some of our colleagues on the establishment of new departments amid the pandemic reverberate more loudly. And I must admit that the challenge for this proposal is much greater now. But we also want to put on record and take note of the overwhelming support of our for the counterpart measure in the lower house, House Bill number 5832, which is also under consideration in this hearing. And again, as chair of the committee, our position remains the same. Our goal is to address the plight of our modern day heroes and to provide them with more and better services. Every year, 1.5 million OFWs get deployed abroad. And every year, we see on the news various cases on illegal recruitment and other scams, exploitative work conditions, as well as problems with integration and reintegration and repatriation. And the policy question prevails today as in 2018 in the past Congress. Do we really need a maestro to orchestrate, synchronize, and harmonize policies regarding OFWs? Kailangan po ba talaga ng isang departamento o yung isinusulong ni Senator Marcos is establishment of an authority? So what would be the difference kung ganun po, no? At magmula pa rin po noong 2018 na nag-hearing po tayo tungkol dito, gusto natin malaman, may mga nadagdag na po ba na mga research natin to support the need for a separate department of overseas Filipinos? Kung meron po, gusto rin natin marinig po yan. We want to look at this issue more objectively. First, how will a new department improve the delivery of services to OFWs? And second, what are the key areas that need improvement and what interventions are necessary? If it is mainly about information dissemination kasi or coordination regarding OFW procedures and laws, the bigger question would be, should we really, or does it require to establish a new department? Again, we are here today to hear developments on this proposal. We want to understand where the clamor is coming from, especially in the present context of the changing labor market dynamics across the globe because of the COVID-19 pandemic. If you recall, when we filed this, when a lot of our colleagues filed this measure, nagkaroon po ng pagtitipon o pag-uusap ang ating mga executives, part of the executive department, and mapalad ho tayo because right now we have Cabsec Carlo Nograles who will be giving us perhaps a presentation of what they have talked about, yung latest update, because even the recent measure that we filed here in this particular committee, which is supposed to be the unified measure, was again revised and amended due to the ongoing collaboration and coordination with the different agencies of the government. Again, we are ready to listen and ready to...
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you are...
When they return to the...
Chairman.
Wala. No sound.
Nako, wala pala akong sound.
No sound.
We can hear you. Do you still... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So we will just place into the records what we I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Yes,
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Dillon. Yes. You're
Thank you.
recognized, Senator Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman, because I want to raise a prejudicial policy question in relation to the hearings this morning. And I want to read into the record a letter which I will send to you as chairman of this committee related to the hearing today. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Yeah. Yes, yes, Senator Dillon, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said, I will send this letter to you immediately after this hearing, and let me read it into the record. Dear Senator Villanueva, I write with regard to the bills proposing to create a Department for Overseas Filipinos or Department for Overseas Filipino Workers, which your committee has scheduled for hearing today. It will be recalled, Mr. Chairman, that during our last session, last November 11, I raised the issue during the budget hearings of a bloated bureaucracy that has forced Congress to allot a significant portion of our national expenditure program and our budget to personnel services. And that the push for this new department comes as the government struggles to source funds for COVID-19 stimulus measures and vaccine procurement. Our Senate President Vicente C. Soto, added that the body should instead prioritize the deliberation of his Senate Bill number 244, otherwise known as the Right Sizing of the National Government Act, which is pending before the Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation. The Senate President stressed that, quote, before we even talk about the new departments, agencies, or offices that we want to create, the body should first pass Senate Bill number 244. The Senate President made clear his position, and I quote, quote, I would rather prioritize right-sizing before we even look into the possibility of new offices, new agencies, or new departments. End of quote. We recall, Mr. Chairman, that the right-sizing bill was emphasized by President Duterte as a priority measure in his State of the Nation addresses delivered both in 2017 and in 2019. In his SONA of 2017, he said, and let me quote, let us trim the excess fat and add more muscle through the expeditious passage of the Act right-sizing the national government to improve Public Service Institute. In his SONA of 2019, the President said, I urge Congress to review and pass the government right-sizing bill to reconfigure the existing Metro Manila-centric bureaucracy, streamline government systems in order to deliver services without delay and within a short timeline, end of quote. Further, Mr. Chairman, the right-sizing bill was identified as part of the legislative agenda in the Philippine Development Plan from 2017 to 2020. It was likewise one of the priority measures identified in the Common Legislative Agenda for the 17th Congress, which was approved by the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council. Mr. Chairman, in deference to the position of our Senate President on this important policy issue, which he made of record in open session and consistent with the policy pronouncements of the President in his State of the Nation addresses, I respectfully move and propose that the hearing on the creation of the Department of Overseas Filipinos be deferred until the Senate Bill number 244 is heard before the proper committee. Thank you. End of the letter. Mr. President, for the record, I have an open mind for the creation of the Department for Overseas Filipino Workers. Having said that, the question that I raise is this the right time? Is a Department for Overseas Filipino Workers a program that has been there as a government policy for almost 50 years, urgently need to be enacted in the 18th Congress? It is my respectful submission, Mr. Chairman, that this bill can wait for a more opportune time. Remember that last month, this chamber passed without question the budget of the Department of Labor and Employment, given the chamber's assessment that during this challenging time of COVID-19 pandemic, the DOLE delivered a commendable service for our OFWs, and the entire government had a coordinated and successful effort to bring back our overseas Filipino workers and protect them from further harm. Last week, the DBCC, in its briefing, forecast that the 2020 gross domestic product will suffer a contraction or a negative growth of 9.5%, probably the highest in Southeast Asia. Our priority next year, Mr. Chairman, I submit, is putting our economy back to its feet, including funding a vaccination program which will cost us 73 billion. I repeat, We have an open mind on the creation of the Department of Overseas Filipino Workers. The issue we raised is the timeliness of this proposal given our situation today. It is also of record, Mr. Chairman, that program deficits are hitting the ceiling, so to speak. Next year, per the report of the Department of Finance, the deficit will be in excess of 8.5% of the gross domestic product, which, in the assessment of the Secretary of Finance, leaves us in a very, very tight situation. In fact, the chair of our budget committee during the deliberations of the budget, in response to the questions on the creation of new departments, said and agreed with this representation. And I quote, he said, Senator Ongara said, quote, "We should tread with caution the creation of new departments because, as the gentleman said, there are 8 bills pending, and once we create a department, we are creating a new whole bureaucracy. And there is a whole slew of expenses that accompany that creation. And of course," he said, "once created, it is very difficult to fold this up or abolish it." This is the view expressed by Senator Angar. Again, I repeat for the third time that we are open to the discussion of this proposed measure, but it is our submission that it should be deferred because of the present circumstances that we find ourselves in. It is in this premise, Mr. President, that we move that the bill under consideration be referred to the Committee on Rules for prioritization vis-a-vis the Senate Bill number 244 of the Senate President, which he has asserted should be given priority. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Dillon. But before we proceed, can we hear several members of the Senate? I can see Senator Amy Marcos raising her hand. Senator Marcos, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to extend my full support to our minority leader for bringing up the issue of right sizing that has been discussed even in the budget deliberations. Given the tough times ahead, we do not see any fiscal space immediately opening up for the establishment of a full-blown department. And that's not only because I'm Ilocana, but really because of our dire straits. I therefore recommended that we should only set up a national overseas employment authority. That is a pulling together of already existing bodies such as the OWA and the POEA under DOLE, as well as the CFO under DFA. Yun lang po, hindi na natin dadagdagan na sangkatutak na USEC, ASEC at iba pa. It's just to pull them together to make certain that there is, in fact, as the chairman said, the concert master to the many melodies and noises deriving from the OFW space. I also sympathize with my chairman's urgent request that please can the administration tell us what in fact they wanted, whether it was a full-blown department or just a consolidation of OFW efforts. Para sa akin, it is very, very urgent that we deal with the OFW problem holistically, comprehensively, and in one piece, because they are coming home in droves. The repatriation issues confronted by DOLE, DFA, and the rest of our departments is really, really difficult and requires immediate attention. So what I am recommending in my bill is simply putting together an advisory council of bodies that already exist, the consolidation of the Overseas Workers Assistance Fund, and also the strangely, I was surprised that I had actually included separate shelters for men, women, and children in the aspect of emergency repatriation. In any case, I think this way we shall be immediately able to deal with permanent, temporary, and even irregular migrants. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, but I do think we need to deal with the OFW problem ASAP. Thank you, po.
Well, thank you also, Senator Marcos. We have with us Senator Binay and Senator Bongo if they wanted to say something and hear their thoughts with regard to this particular issue. If there's none, the chair would like to call for a minute suspension to just uh, talk to our members. The hearing is hereby suspended for a minute. Senate Minority Floor Leader, but I was also told that Senator Bongo would like to give his thoughts about this as an author of this measure. May we acknowledge Senator Bongo? And also Senator Coco Pimentel, who is also one of the authors of the measure. We'd like to recognize Senator Coco Pimentel. Yes, Senator Coco, you're recognized.
I just logged in, Mr. Chairman, so thank you for this opportunity. Let me listen first to the exchanges before I ask my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Coco, before you came in, there was a motion filed by our Minority Floor Leader for the measures being deliberated upon by this committee to be referred to the Committee on Rules. And we were about to vote on it when Senator Bongo texted this representation if he could make a manifestation. Also, during the caucus a while ago, by this representation with Senator Drilon, Senator Marcos, and Senator Binay, we would like to hear the Secretary of the Secretaries, Secretary Cabsec Carlo Nograles, before we act on the motion. So that is the status now, Senator Coco. If you don't have any statements or thoughts about this, we will give the floor to Cabsec Carlo Nograles.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yes. Please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Okay. We'll give the floor to Cabsec Carlo Nograles, who has been working very hard for these measures, and I'm sure he would be able to give us some points of what had transpired during a series of meetings with different agencies of the government. Thank you. Cabsec Carlo Nograles, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My utmost respect to the Chair, Senator Joel Villanueva, and our honorable senators, Senators Drilon, Binay, Marcos, Senator Bongo, and Senator Coco Pimentel, and all the other members of the Senate, and sa mga kabalikat ko sa executive branch. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Mr. Chair, at the outset, our office sent a letter dated November 27, attaching therein the proposed revisions to the legislative measures on the creation of the Department of Overseas Filipinos. No? And this revised version is the result actually of a series of consultation meetings conducted under the auspices of my office, together with the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, the Office of the Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal Affairs, and it reflects the unified and collective position of all agencies under the executive branch. Kasama na po dyan ang POEA, ang OWA, ang DFA, ang Department of Labor and Employment, ang DSWD, NEDA, and the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, among others, Mr. Chair. The creation of the Department of Overseas Filipinos is a solemn campaign promise of President Rodrigo Duterte. The fundamental reason for creating the Department of Overseas Filipinos is to uphold the primordial duty of the state to protect the rights and promote the welfare and interest of our Filipinos overseas. This new department seeks to streamline and directly manage all concerns of Filipinos overseas, now numbering to more than 10 million, plus their families, plus their dependents in the Philippines. The department, or DOFIL, is likewise necessary to refocus and consolidate the overlapping functions that can be found in the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, the Department of Labor and Employment's International Labor Affairs Bureau and National Reintegration Center for OFWs, the DSWD's International Social Services Office, the POEA, and OWA. So President Duterte is absolutely correct, Mr. Chair, in pushing for the creation of a department solely focused on the needs of overseas Filipinos and their families. The government's response to protect overseas Filipinos, especially overseas Filipino workers, under the lens of this COVID-19 pandemic, is a great opportunity for us to look at the bureaucratic challenges of coordinating protection and response initiatives for our OFWs. The creation of this new department, Mr. Chair, in this time of pandemic is thus a welcome reset for the benefit of all overseas Filipinos and their families. Most importantly, Mr. Chair, the law creating the DOFIL codifies the Philippines' commitment to champion and fulfill the 23 objectives of the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. With this creation, the DFA shall be passing the torch of its assistance to nationals' operations, including its good track record and best practices. This new department, the DOFIL, as a specialized agency, can subsume the functions currently assigned to the DFA, particularly that of the Office of the Undersecretary for Migrant Workers Affairs, or OUMWA. As to the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, the functions of the CFO fall properly within the mandate and of the DFA, and specifically with the creation of this new department, the DOFIL will now take over the functions of the CFO. DOFIL shall also assume the powers and functions of the DOLE's International Labor Affairs Bureau, or ILAB, to include all Philippine Overseas Labor Offices, or POLOs. The DOLE's National Reintegration Center for OFWs will also form part of this new department. Remember, the NRCO develops programs for OFWs and their families to work and live with an entrepreneurial mindset. The functions and powers also of the DSWD's International Social Services Office will also likewise be subsumed by the Department of Filipino Overseas, or DOOF, or DOFIL. This will ensure that the general welfare and rights of all overseas Filipinos, primarily the undocumented and distressed Filipinos abroad and their families, are protected. Sa POEA naman, Mr. Chair, POEA, or the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, shall form part of DOFIL as an attached agency with the same powers and functions as we know it, including the power and function of regulating the deployment of Filipino workers and other related activities. OWA, Mr. Chair, will also form part of DOFIL as an attached agency, vested with a special function of developing and implementing welfare programs and services that respond to the needs of OFWs and their families and to their reintegration back to the Philippines. Lastly, but certainly not the least, as mentioned earlier, the proposed DOFIL law codifies the Philippines' commitment to fulfill the 23 objectives of the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. This will set an example for other countries to follow and will showcase the Philippines as one of the first with such legislation in the world, and will truly put us in the map for others to benchmark against and emulate. Will DOFIL contribute to right-sizing the bureaucracy, Mr. Chair? Yes, definitely it will. DOFIL is not creating a totally new office. In fact, to the contrary, it will be an amalgamation of all key offices dealing with migrant workers protection into a single entity that is focused on its mandate and avoids overlapping of functions. It consolidates the budgetary allocations to a single public entity to better and more efficiently. Pandemic times is of utmost urgency and it cannot wait. Will the creation of DOFIL be another big budget ticket in our budget, Mr. Chair? No, it will not. The budget previously assigned to absorbed offices will be the statutory budget for this new department. For its operation, it will rely on the GAA appropriated budget of the DFA o UMWA to include the ATN fund plus the legal assistance fund budget, the budget of the CFO plus the budget allocation of DOLE's ILAB and POLOs and NRCO and the social welfare attaches lodged with the DSWD. While the respective budgets of POEA and OWA are treated separately from the DOFIL as they shall be attached agencies with their own specific charters. DOFIL will have one secretary, 4 undersecretaries, and several assistant secretaries. But not all of these offices will be needing new funding since there is already a budget for a CFO secretary, undersecretary, several bureau directors in other offices and plantilla items in the absorbed agencies. DOFIL could also be temporarily housed at the CFO leased building or use the budget for the lease of the CFO building to pay for the office space of the new department. Further, DOFIL regional offices may be temporarily housed in existing OWA and or DFA o UMWA desks nationwide. So with this, Mr. Chair, and on behalf of the entire executive branch, may we please ask the honorable senators for the support of the entire Senate to pass this bill most expeditiously. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Cabsec Nograles, for giving us that presentation. I hope that we can also get a copy of that. No? I think the senators are texting me if we can get a copy of the report. Anyway, at this juncture, we will give the floor to Senator Bongo, one of the authors who's with us right now. Senator Bongo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are already conducting a hearing recognizing the plight of millions of overseas Filipinos who need a more responsive mechanism from government to respond to their needs. Let us take it from here and continue the discussion and see how we can reach a viable solution. Marami namang concerns ngayon na dapat nating asikasuhin, and this should not take a backseat. While we are financially constrained, this should not stop us from doing our job and looking for better ways to improve our government. Ituloy po natin ang discussion and let us see how we can improve further this proposed measure. This hearing has been a long time coming. This is our heeding of the call of the President to enact a measure that will create a department solely focused on the ever-growing needs of Filipinos in foreign lands. I thank our good chair, Senator Villanueva, for leading in this first step towards the realization of this goal. The President has been steadfast in his position that the country needs a department to properly address the concerns of Filipino overseas. This is so important to him that he has called for the creation of this department in the last two of State of the Nation addresses. Simple lang po ang layunin ng batas na ito. Gusto natin na magkaroon ng isang ahensya ng gobyerno na magsisilbing timon para sa lahat ng concerns ng ating mga kababayan sa ibang bansa. Para naman po ito sa bubuti ng mahigit 10 milyong Pilipino na nakikipagsapalaran po sa iba't ibang bahagi ng mundo. Tandaan natin that is almost or more than 10% of the whole population po ng buong sambayan ng Pilipinas. Sa tagal na po natin sa public service, hindi naman po lingid sa ating kaalaman na kapag po ang ating maahensya ay hiwa-hiwalay at may kanya-kanyang mandato, ang nahihirapan po ay ang ating mga overseas Pilipino, mga OFW. Kadalasan, hindi nila alam kung saan sila pupunta, pinagpapasahan sila, Huwag naman po sana ganito ang ating gobyerno. Suklian natin sila ng sakripisyo na maayos at maasahang serbisyo. Tinatawag nga natin silang mga bagong bayani natin. Mahirap po. Kadalasan nananawagan sila dito sa Facebook, sa radyo, kahit saan na lang po sila humihingi ng saklolo. At saksi naman tayo lahat niyan. Lalong-lalo na po itong pandemyang ito, kahit saan na lang po sila humihingi ng tulong. Makarating lang po sa gobyerno ang kanilang mga hinaing at hinihinging tulong. Ang Executive Department naman po sa pangunguna ng ating butihing Cabinet Secretary ay nag-conduct ng series of meetings and consultations among the government agencies involved in this measure to coordinate and consolidate their concerns about the bill. Nagkaisa naman po ang ating mga government agencies in support of this proposed law. Kaya nga po nag-file tayo ng enhanced version at ayaw nating ma-veto po ng Executive Department kung ano man pong mapagkasunduan natin dito. Hindi naman po ito pandagdag sa ating bureaucracia. Rather, this is a measure to streamline government services and improve bureaucratic responsiveness. Kaysa naman po hiwa-hiwalay ang ating mga ahensya na nagsisilbi sa ating mga overseas Filipinos, hindi po ba mas magandang nasa isang bubong na lang sila at iisang team, isang mandato po. Pero ang pinaka-importanteng boses po na kailangan nating pakinggan ay mga boses ng ating mga overseas Filipinos. Napakarami pong nagsasabi bakit natin kailangan gumawa ng isang departamento, gumagana naman po ang ating current setup. With all due respect po, iba po ang nangyayari sa ground, nahirapan po ang ating mga overseas na Pilipino. Paano pa natin masasabi na gumagana ang ating sistema sa tuwing ako po'y umiikot sa ating mga kababayan, paulit-ulit po ang kanilang mga hinaing. Sana po'y alalahanin natin sila ang pinaka-nangangailangan dito, pakinggan po natin sila at intindihin natin kung saan sila nanggagaling. At the end of the day, para naman po ito sa kanila, sa kabutihan po nilang ating isinusulong na batas. Nandito po tayo hindi lamang maghain lamang ng batas na hindi kailangan. Nandito po tayo para magbigay po ng solusyon sa mga kinakaharap na problema ng ating mamamayan. Sana po bigyan natin ng importansya ang ating mga OFWs, ang ating mga overseas Filipino. Mahirap po mapalayo sa pamilya, hindi po nababayaran ang lungkot. Bigyan natin sila ng importansya. Sana po may isa katuparan na po itong Department of Overseas Filipinos. Mga kasamahan ko po, sa mga colleagues ko, sana po tulungan natin. Sana po mapag-usapan natin ito. Sana po may isa katuparan na rin po ito. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Bongo. He's been very passionate about this establishment of the Department of OFWs. And just to put on record also, the latest version would be that as of December 2, submitted to us by the Cabinet Secretary and the PLLO. As committed to our members during our caucus, we will act on the motion of our minority floor leader. If there are any other comments or
Mr. Chairman.
Can we see that? Because I can't see anyone here.
Mr. Chairman.
Who's that? Oh, Senator Coco. Yes, Senator Coco. Pimentel, yes, you're recognized.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record, I want to identify myself with the inputs and comments made by Cabsec Nograles and of course Senator Bongo. I agree with the rationale for the creation of this department specifically for our overseas Filipino workers and of its urgency. So my question now, Mr. Chairman, is since there's a pending motion, what would be the effect of the motion if it is carried on the bills pending before the committee?
Well, the effect would be, as stated earlier by the minority floor leader, that the Rules Committee would decide on whether or not the right sizing bill would be prioritized first, or um, the Committee on Rules can also decide to continue with this hearing together with the deliberation of the right sizing bill, or vice versa, Your Honor, Senator Pimentel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I just request the minority leader that maybe we can allow the parallel progress of the bills creating OFW, Department of OFW, to be heard by this committee, and at the same time, the issue raised in the motion be concurrently, simultaneously studied by the Rules Committee. Anyway, sir, diba, it takes time naman for the committee to come up with its report or recommendation or its stand. So if we could allow the committee to continue hearing the bills, depending bills on the Department of OFWs. And at the same time, raise it up now, raise the question, which is the subject matter of the motion, before the Committee on Rules. If that is possible, can we hear the wisdom of the more experienced legislator, our minority leader?
Thank you, Senator Coco. As we have stated at the opening of this hearing, and reading the letter that we have addressed to the chair into the record, it is we are just asking for a ruling from the Rules Committee on the prioritization in our legislative agenda, given the very clear view of the Senate President when he stated during the hearings, during the budget debates last month, when he said, quote, "Before we even talk about the new departments, agencies, or offices that we want to create, the body should first pass Senate Bill number 244, and further stating that, quote, "I would rather prioritize first before we even look at the possibility of new offices, new agencies, and new departments." All that we have submitted in our motion is for the Committee on Rules to first rule whether and set our prioritization. So I regret that that position that we have taken, and citing not only the Senate President's position but also the previous pronouncements of the President should be responded by the Committee on Rules before we proceed with the committee hearings on the creation of new departments. Not only of this department, there are 7 other bills that are pending for the creation of 7 other departments. And so that is the tenor of our motion, Mr. Chairman, that is borne out by the record. If the Rules Committee ultimately it is ruled that yes, we can hear simultaneously, we will so abide by the ruling. And as we said, we have an open mind. We will debate on this. But at this point, all that we are asking for is the prioritization of our legislative agenda, which the Senate President has set in his intervention during the budget debates. That's all that we are asking for, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minority Leader, for responding to my query. But Mr. Chairman, if I may continue, hence I could see, I think, middle ground or a course of action, which I believe is, which can accommodate the essence of the motion. I think we can, Mr. Chairman, I think we can continue to hear this. At any rate, it will take time. It will take time. Sayang din naman, we have time to hear this, and then resource persons are ready to share with the Senate their position, their opinions, which are made off record. Diba? So yun eh. So these are all recorded. So even if we let's say revisit this topic in the future or even future congresses, they can now refer to to the records of this Senate, of this Congress, for the positions, the arguments in favor and even against the creation of the Department for OFW. So that's my position, Mr. Chairman. But of course, we will now, because of the motion of the minority leader, we will now have to bring this matter to the Committee on Rules for a ruling. But I just want to make clear, sana, if it's possible, that the motion does not stymie or does not prevent or suspend this committee's attention and action on the pending bills on the creation of the Department of FWs. Diba, Mr. Chairman, diba, and this will not be the first and only, or this will not be the last hearing. Tuloy-tuloy. So sayang if we can continue with the hearings, it will still take time anyway. Na-refer na yung question sa Committee on Rules. The Committee on Rules will now study. My point is nothing will be lost. Kahit na the Committee on Rules will direct us to, okay, stop your hearings, because everything is recorded for the guidance now of legislators in future Congresses, in case the subject matter is revived. That is my position or argument, Mr. Chairman. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for that manifestation and position. I actually share your position, Senator Coco, and it's just that in the early part of this hearing, when we had the caucus, we extensively deliberated on the issues at hand, and let me also put on record that a lot of developments had happened. Not only the December 2 version, which was submitted to this committee. So far, we have been hearing some developments and updates with regard to the meetings being conducted by the office of the cabinet secretary. So again, thank you. And the motion
Mr.
of
Chair?
the minority floor leader. Yes,
Chair?
Senator Nancy. Yes,
Just a
Senator
query,
Binay.
Mr. Chairman. Yung December 2 version ba is the same version stated by CABSEC Nograles this morning?
Say CABSEC Nograles would be able to answer that. Is that the same CABSEC Nograles, the December 2 version, the one that you presented today?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yung sulat po namin sa inyo, addressed to your office po as chair of the committee, nakapasok po dyan yung lahat ng proposed revisions na pinagkasunduan po ng buong executive branch. So these are proposed revisions to Senate Bill number 1835. We use lang Senate Bill 1835 as our
As
reference bill lang po. But lahat po ng nakapaloob dyan po yung napagkasunduan na namin ng mga proposed revisions for obviously for the of the Senate, for the guidance of the Senate.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
And,
Chairman.
thank you, Senator Binay. And to also propound on the statements made by Senator Pimentel, you can also submit your position paper to this committee, and we will gladly look into it. So, with that, unless my colleagues would like to make any statements,
Chairman,
manifestation
Chairman.
before the yes, Senator Pimentel.
I will.
Senator Pimentel.
Yes, thank you, sir. I will support the position of the chairman of the committee. But anyway, you control the speed of the progress of the bills pending in your committee. So, sunod kami sa iyo, ako sir, sa iyo, kung ano yung boto nyo, ano yung stand nyo sa motion, I will support your position.
Thank you very much, Senator Pimentel. I appreciate it. In fact, we have the same position, but there was no one among the members actually objected to the motion. And as of this moment, if you look at the composition of our colleagues present here today, considering that this is a joint committee hearing with your committee, Mr. Chair, Senator Pimentel, Committee on Foreign Relations and the Committee on Finance, we might not be able to get the numbers to actually vote on the motion. So we will subscribe to the motion filed by our minority floor leader, since uh, the motion of the minority leader, this committee will refer the matter to the Committee on Rules, and we will suspend the consideration of uh, this deliberation, of the deliberation of this Senate bills, as earlier stated. So that is the case. Yes, Senator Bongo, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, siguro naman nothing will be lost if ituloy natin muna itong pagdinig. Sinagot naman po ni Cabsec why this measure cannot wait. The budget appropriated to agencies will be utilized for this new department, and we will no longer incur additional burden to our financial struggles. Rather, it will unburden our bureaucracy and streamline functions, so we can respond better and properly maximize the resources we need. So sana po dapat ituloy muna natin ang pagdinig na ito.
Thank you, Senator Bongo. Any other member who would wish to, because we'll call for 1 minute suspension. Sorry, 1 minute suspension, please. there was a motion raised earlier by our minority floor leader, and this committee will now refer the matter to the Committee on Rules, as we will suspend the
To
consideration
go
of
to areas that are, if we like to say, mga
this measure. So,
dictionary
Senator Amy, sorry, we can hear you.
This is really a concern.
I think Senator
For
Amy is
all
in
of
the
us.
other committee. Can we? So that is the status now. We will suspend the consideration of this hearing, and we will refer the matter to the Committee on Rules. So again, thank you so much for being here. We again like to commend and thank the presence of Cabsec Carlo Nograles, Secretary Bello, Secretary Acosta, and the rest. Thank you very much. I think we were able to hear at least some updates and the development of this particular measure filed in this committee. Again, thank you very much. This hearing is hereby suspended. God bless you all. Thank you.